Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mumbo number 5. Welcome to episode 47 of One with the Films. Let me make sure all of our audio is unmuted across everywhere. TikTok, YouTube, we're good to go. So yeah, we're going to get started. If you're in the chat, thank you so much for joining us. We're talking all three things Singin In The Rain. So Kate, ready when you are, Queen.
Alrighty then, guys, here we are. Extra, extra, read all about it. OWTF Studios presents the thrilling third beginning to what will surely be an unforgettable journey through the history of cinema, the psyches of unstable movie fans, and neurodiverse rants about things you might care about. Get ready to shuffle, pirouette, leap, grapevine, paradiddle, time step, box step, and step touch your way down memory lane to somewhere you know and probably tolerate, I mean love. One with the Films is back with a thrilling beginning to their third season. But who are they? What is this? Am I wearing pants right now? Why did it all end in the church? The hell is a paradiddle? And where can I get pictures of Spider-Man? All good questions, and some will be answered. For the 46th time in glorious, somewhat high definition sound, your favorite only nonsense hosts are back. Naf and Kay, they talk and sometimes make sense. In a show that likely won't lose money because it's not going to make any money. And as you wonder if that line was truly HR and legal approved, I'll tell you that's actually a funny story. You see, it begins with a, oh, hey, what's that? Over there. Is that a segue? Starring the rootin' tootin' cowboy caboodlin' long-haired stallion who's ready to get rockin' and rollin'. It's Kay, also known as Keegan, also known as Kenneth Raglanson. No, not really. But standing by his side, mostly virtually, is the man of legend, the steaming piece of hotsy totsy fossy Ozzy, the man with gams who knows his onions. It's the wonderful Nathaniel Forget About This Johnson, also known as Naf. Let's see as he tries to introduce himself.
I missed this a lot.
Absolutely, and returning over here, but by their side. For his debut appearance on this network is the swing dancing, cosplaying, sharp dressing, don't want to start messing with Nick Williams, also known as Codename Fulcrum. Let's see what he has to say.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good man. That's, yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay. I should have thought of that.
Beautiful.
It's a musical. Everything's a musical.
Yeah.
You gotta start off with it.
I'd actually thought about
let's finish.
you
go
finish
ahead.
off. You finish off. No.
Yeah, just a quick little. I just got one last paragraph here. I had to indulge myself a bit.
Just don't stop ever.
Monologue
Run the whole show.
Watch as these three men discuss this week's Blast from the Past and decide if it's a timeless or is it a classic. So grab your hats because it's going to be hold on, I'm going to try that again. Good, let me take it again. Watch as these, we got this. Watch as these three men discuss this week's Blast from the Past and decide if it's timeless or a classic. So grab your hats because it's going to be a gas. Grab your dancing shoes and turn up the blues. Turn on the rain and get ready to be horny on Maine. It's time for One with the Films. Now let's turn it to these gentlemen now. And now I rest my case.
Beautiful.
I'm going to take a little sip of this drink.
You enjoy that. I'm going to take a sip of my water because it's early morning for me.
Absolutely,
and
it's
such,
post-work day for me. So
beautiful work. Kicking off the season as if we'd never stopped.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we did a fantastic job.
Won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. It's wonderful to be back. And Nick, thank you for being our first guest.
Thank you for having me on the season debut. I know.
That's it. What a wonderful way to kick off our season. And Marianne says that you did a beautiful job as well. Okay, so thank you, Marianne. Also, thank you to everyone joining us in the YouTube live stream. And if you're listening on demand, well, then we'll see you next time, I guess. But yeah, as we said, One with the Films is back for season 3. And you can find One with the Films anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, also live and on demand on YouTube. Be sure to stick around to the end of the episode where we're going to announce the next film on your weekly watch list to get you ready to join in the conversation next week. I can't wait.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and Naf, that actually kind of, just brings us to the whole point here. What the hell are we all doing here?
Well, yeah, so we're not just three people coming in talking random nonsense and yelling at the screen, the name one with the films on repeat. We actually do have a purpose for being here, and if you guys are looking at the screen, you can kind of get a little bit of an idea of what's happening. But for long-time listeners, you're already going to know what you're in for. So if you've been around for a while, welcome on back. However, for the uninitiated who've spontaneously stumbled across our little corner of the internet, welcome to One with the Films. Today, we're
First off, we're
weekly.
sorry, but like we will also, you know, hopefully entertain you.
I'm not sorry.
Okay, you're right. You're
welcome, honey.
Self-confidence. We got it. That's
Fake
this season.
You make it. And look, we have
Absolutely.
3 guests today that are dressed the part. Look at me. I'm in my Gene Kelly. You're in your Gene Kelly. Number 3's in his Gene Kelly too. We're just like Kellying all over the place.
Listen, I'm just saying we are the people that go the most all out visually for an audio-based podcast. Yeah. It's the best. It's fantastic.
I'm working on that. So.
Oh, absolutely. Well, continue. Sorry to interrupt you.
Hey, and Kit's in chat as well. Welcome, Kit. But as we were saying, for the uninitiated, we're doing the weekly watch list. So every week we're back with a new film. But we have a specific and cheeky little gimmick we love, where in every episode ever, someone is watching someone else's favorite film for the first time, or one of their favorite films. And then we hang out here, we talk about it all afternoon. It's the best place to be if you're working through a pesky watch list or if you're looking to add a few new films to it. So either way, you're welcome. We're happy to have you, and we love you so much. So with that in mind, what film are we talking about this week, and who the hell brought it? Nick, you wanna fill us in a little bit?
So we are doing...
Oh no!
Ooh!
Oh no!
I guess we're not doing
the 1952 Serene.
Ooh!
Or did you pause? Okay,
we pause for a second.
What?
Let's just go back.
Yeah.
We'll give you the intro there.
One sec. Nick just dropped, so let me pop him back in and see.
I'll mark this down.
I'm still alive.
Oh yeah, we're all good. We're all good. Just gonna go to NAF notes.
2 seconds, guys. There we go. All right, we're back there. You got the note of that, Kay?
Yeah, 7:17.
Okay, so
I put it around there. Got it.
Yeah, literally, just as I threw to you, Nick, you froze and then fell out.
It was quite perfectly timed. And for those watching live, you get to see how flawless this is. And so now here we are.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you. We look fly
here.
So, back to what we were saying. So, what film are we talking about this week, Nick?
So we've got the 1952 movie musical Singin In The Rain with Gene Kelly, Debbie Reynolds, and Donald O'Connor. And of course, it's known as one of the most iconic movie musicals of all time. I guess you could say it's probably one of the most famous, at least.
Yeah.
And so we're diving into that.
Cool. And you've brought that one for us this week. So we're really excited to get into it. Let me run through some fun facts on the film, though I'm sure that both of you, having seen it before and well before me, you may have some stuff to add at the end. So yeah, let me fill you in and let me see if I can teach you guys something about the movie that I got on my research.
Go for it.
In 2006, over 50 years after its release, this film was ranked as the #1 movie musical in American history and the #5 greatest film of all time in 2007 by the American Film Institute. At the time of release, however, it was considered nothing more than an enjoyable MGM musical, bringing in mixed reviews and being referred to as a mediocre follow-up to An American in Paris, which had released the previous year with the same lead actor. It ended up bringing in only 2 Oscar nominations, one for music and one for supporting actress, but none for Best Picture. But it didn't really get its glory until its re-release in 1958, when some critics started reassessing their initial critiques, with Pauline Kael proclaiming it as the best Hollywood musical of all time. As of today, the film sits with a 4.3 out of 5 on Letterboxd, ranking 111th in all-time highest-rated films, and number 88 on IMDb's top 250 highest-rated films as well, marking it a certified classic for the ages. Starring Gene Kelly, Donald O'Connor, Debbie Reynolds, and Gene Hagen, and written by Betty Condon and Adolph Green. Whoa, we've got a friend. Written by Betty Comden and Adolph Green, the idea for the film was partially inspired by the screenwriters buying a house in Hollywood from a former film star whose career was killed by the talkies. From 19-hour days to having 103-degree temperatures, that's Fahrenheit, obviously, or they'd be dead, cast members enduring verbal and emotional abuse from a perfectionist of a director/performer, collapsing for 3 days after finishing filming on a grueling number, crying under a piano, having its original negative reel destroyed, and overshooting its $1.9 million budget by nearly $700,000, $150,000 of which went just into costumes. This film should have never seen the light of day. But through all of that, and even causing some, or most of it, Directing pair Stanley Donen and Gene Kelly himself brought this 1920s Hollywood time machine to life with the help of an ungodly amount of cast and crew, both on and behind the screen, with a significant number of them not receiving on-screen credits. Pretty ironic given the subject matter of this film. Now, there are so many other fun facts we could talk about with this one as well, but I don't want to get carried away. So before we move ahead, do you guys have anything you want to add?
Of course.
Hit me, baby.
So many things. Don't get me to stop. Kay, did you have anything?
Oh, well, I mean, listen, I'm more interested to hear what you have to say. Like, I just think that it's fascinating when you hear this film, and not only what it has to say about Hollywood's history in general, but like what it took to get this made, and you know what it cost. And again, always that debate about what art costs, and I think that we're going to get into a lot of that. But again, it's an incredible film, and it is so interesting, again, how people's opinions of films change throughout the years, and it makes you think about what films released today will receive this same treatment in 20, 50 years' time. And it's like, what will be re-released, and people being like, oh my God, how did we ever think that this was a like mediocre movie? Yeah.
It's kind of like Blade Runner, right? Like it didn't do great, but it's like one of the most influential sci-fis of all time, you know, and it's such a sci-fi fan favorite. But at the time, it had a lot of that mixed. It was slow, it was everything else, and this is kind of what Singin' in the Rain was.
Well, question for you guys.
Exactly.
The year that this went into the Oscars, The Greatest Show on Earth won. With I think it's Charlton Heston.
I believe so.
Yeah, but that won, and I was doing some research when I was putting the fun facts together, and I saw that film is like, it's got like a 6 out of 10 on IMDb and like a 2.6 on Letterboxd. Like it doesn't, and I've not seen it before. But have either of you seen that film? Because I've not really heard of it.
I actually haven't.
And I've heard a lot of Singin' in the Rain. And I find this is a really common thing for films that we look back now as classics that were just snubbed at the Oscars. It's really interesting to look back and go, oh, what won? Oh, nobody's talking about that.
Oh, it's fascinating, yeah.
So this is also obviously coming a year later from American in Paris, which of course is a Gene Kelly musical, and that was far more dramatic. So when it comes to the Oscars and when it comes to the presentation, having a musical like that with a lot of the drama, with a lot of the gravitas that kind of film had, when you get something like a year later, like Singin' in the Rain, which is much lighter. I mean, the Singin' in the Rain is just light. It's just a light, like fun romp with a movie musical. And then the story itself, I mean, the story itself of Singin' in the Rain is very simplistic. Like there's not a whole lot to it as far as depth. It's very simple. It's on the surface. It's approachable. So I think some of those elements is what led it to, and when it came to Academy nominations and things like that, which is why they were hoping for something like American in Paris. But when you get something different, and then years later, people actually go back and appreciate the art that it was. So I think a lot of it was the timing and where it fell in and all of that. It's like releasing the same weekend as like the Infinity War saga, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also really interesting how like a prior film can affect the release of sort of what comes next. And particularly when we talk about like reflecting back on things years later. Like I know one other film that's experienced that, at least off the top of my head, is The Last Jedi. So the Force Awakens came out, people had all these expectations. Hey, we're starting strong, baby. Early. We're starting strong. No, so like, I mean, seriously though, like it did make me think of it in that sense.
Right.
Because like you've got Force Awakens comes out, you get expectation that comes from that. Last Jedi comes out afterwards. It's not what you expected it to be, but I feel like that when you do look back on it later as its own thing, it does stand like really, really well, in my opinion. Of course, other people will have theirs. But
no, of course.
Season 1 episode.
Season 1.
I will say
that wasn't even. That was a record timing.
Singin' in the Rain has a Star Wars connection. That
yes, it does.
Yeah,
I know it. Yeah, a beautiful Star Wars. Actually, again, a very potent Last Jedi connection.
Naf, can you guess what that Star Wars connection is?
That's interesting. The only thing I can think is, did they do the premiere at the Chinese where they did A New Hope?
I actually don't know that part. It's one of the characters in it, not the character, but the actor or actress.
Huh? No, I don't know. Tell me.
Debbie Reynolds is Carrie Fisher's mother.
Really?
Yeah.
This I didn't know. Actually, it's funny you saying it now. It's like it is jogging a memory of like I have heard this or I knew this, but like very subconsciously, or like you know the name, but I didn't. Whoa, okay. Okay, cool.
So fun things about Debbie Reynolds when it comes to this is that Debbie was not a dancer going into Singin' In The Rain.
Yes.
Like, I mean, probably learned some little things, but was not a dancer. So like had to learn dancing for this. And again, like what in some of the things that you read with Gene being a bit of a taskmaster and like, you know, like there are certain times where like Debbie just like broke down. And of course, like is like having a breakdown under a piano. And who should find Debbie is Fred Astaire.
Yeah, I read this.
Fred Astaire finds Debbie like just like broken down under a piano and just gives her some encouraging words.
I think I read that he did a bit of like tutoring for her as well, didn't he? Like maybe showed her.
It's possible. There's some things that are well, I'm trying to figure out what's actual fact versus what the story is, but it's very possible because they're all on the same lot. Like it was a much smaller world when it came to that. Like stars were kind of all around each other and saw each other.
Yeah. Well, with this film in particular, let's do a little bit of a round robin with the crew. So, we want to check what do we know before going into this film. So you brought this film for us, Nick. Kay, you had seen this before. I'm curious on your experience with this film. How long ago did you watch it? How many times have you seen it?
I've probably seen this film not as many times as I would like to. I saw this film for the first time. I went on a date with a girl when I was in my freshman year of college. And well, thank you. Yeah, it was the best thing to come out of that. And it was it was a beautiful thing where basically like at some point she was like, yeah, like have you seen Singin' In The Rain? And I was like, no. And she was just like, oh, we got to watch that. And so we're just in my dorm room and we just watched this movie. And I was just like, I just had no idea what it was really about. And that was, I think, the thing that all of a sudden drew me in as like how brilliant I thought everything was because I just didn't know it was about Hollywood. I didn't know it was about the going from the talkies or going from the silence to the talkies. I was just absolutely blown away by that story and just the enriching and the dance and the choreography. And I mean, it was just insane. And so I saw this back in like 2016, fall 2016.
La La Land?
It was pre. That was what was crazy about it, was because literally La La Land came out that December.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
And so it was kind of a great primer for stuff like that. But yeah, so I just, this film has just meant a lot to me since then. Haven't rewatched it as many times as I would like, but it's always one of those films that when I think about things that take my breath away, this is one of those films that comes up.
Yeah. Marianne says there's a picture of young Carrie Fisher watching Debbie Reynolds perform on stage from backstage as well. So that's really cool.
And after this film, like Debbie did become a dancer.
Yeah.
And like dancing was such a big part of her life after this film.
Yeah. That sounds really cool. I haven't really seen much of her other work either. But I did read that she was very young on the set of this film. Which, was interesting. Kind of, there's a lot of other stuff that we'll dive into as we kind of get into the conversation from there too. But in your case, Nick, so this is your favorite film of all time, correct?
That's like my favorite movie. I have categories in my brain. Like I have favorite.
I understand
categories. But as far as both movies and like what I do for a living and like kind of encompassing all the things, I grew up musical theater, acting. I wanted to go into film before I found dancing. So that it kind of encapsulates so much of what I am and who I am.
Yeah.
That, it's like, I do all the Star Wars content, but like this one, like is quite literally encompassing so many aspects of what my life has been, that it kind of symbolizes me more than anything else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. I think like I'd had a similar experience when as I'd gone from favorite film to favorite film. It's funny that often it's not the one that I'll look at as the film that I've seen that's the best. It's the one that feels the most me. I think it was in our first season when I was introducing Kay to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I'd watched it and I was just like, I feel so connected to this. Like this makes so much sense to me. It feels so like me, how I've looked at relationships in the past or that kind of stuff, that it was so easy to then go, this is my favorite film because it's like the most me. And I think that, yeah, when you recommended this film to come on, I was like, yeah, of course. What else?
Absolutely.
And then from the clips and skits and stuff that we've done, you've done performances of Gene Kelly live, and we'll dive into that a little bit more as well. But for me in particular, with this film, first time watch, having seen a lot of things that were inspired by this, and watching it, and as I was saying just before, I was very much like Leo in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like, hey, I get it. I saw that thing in Barbie. So that was really cool. And it was kind of a, what's the word? Like, in ways I didn't expect to see, like, oh, this inspired that. I've seen that before. I've seen that before. I've seen that before. Whoa. So all those connections were really, really cool. Now, we are going to jump into a couple of topics that we've prepared for discussion. Now, this film has been out since 1952. So if you haven't seen it, that's on you, baby. Now, this being said, we're not doing a play-by-play for the movie, but we are anticipating that you have seen it, so we're not avoiding spoilers. You can always come back later if you want to watch the film and then listen to us, go into the film fresh and come back and listen to us later. However, if you do want to stick around and you haven't seen it, there's going to be an interesting conversation regardless, and hopefully it'll entice you to go and check out the film. So let's get into the conversation. We've touched on a couple of the topics already, but I know in particular, I want to hear a lot from you, Nick, around the choreography here. You're a dancer by trade, and I've watched you do these dances. It's very impressive. So yeah, why don't you kick us off? Talk to us a little bit about the things that stick out for you.
Well, so Gene Kelly in essence, it kind of changed dancing on film, because before that you had a lot of the Fred Astaire's, you had different types of dancers, but Gene Kelly had that lower, more athletic, full body look to things. He did things later on, he did specials comparing dance and sports to kind of understand that anybody can dance, and it was kind of thought of as that everyman. He's from the Bronx type of person, and you can really relate to him. And so he brought that into film as opposed to trying to be very elegant or, Fred had that just that kind of almost suave kind of look to him. But Gene Kelly, wore the vests and got low. But obviously, most of it is his choreography, himself and Stanley Donen. And within that, Donald O'Connor was also very much a dancer. He'd been dancing all his life. But the difference between Donald O'Connor and Gene Kelly is Donald O'Connor was a hoofer, meaning it wasn't the full body everything. He was mostly he did tap. He was, I think, in an early group, Jivin' Jackson Jills, I believe, as a kid, and then went on to kind of do his own movies as well. But he had to learn a lot of Gene's movements, a lot of the arm stuff that you see them doing, and Moses Suppose is, for example, is a big one of that. He had to learn all of that, which of course he carried on for the rest of his career because kind of that full-bodied aspect. Gene took a lot of obviously the movies have a lot of tap in it, because that's kind of what the people liked to go see. They like to see a lot of tap. It's very beautiful. But Gene took a lot of not only athleticism, because I believe he was a boxer too, but also ballet. Ballet was a big part of everything that he did. And you see that in certain moments that they have in a lot of his movies, where there's a literal ballet within this movie. They pause for a 15-minute ballet in each of these movies. But the thing about Gene, I think he was relatable more than anything else, that people saw it and of course swooned as well, because I mean,
how can you not?
When he has that smirk, you're like, oh my.
Oh, very much so. It definitely is that. I mean, speaking purely on behalf of a friend on that, just clearly Nath was just saying how much swoon, definitely not me. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He just has that suave, you connect to him, you feel it. And it's just in such an earnest way that, as you're saying, it's kind of he is this everyman.
Mm-hmm. And he inspired all the generations after that. You see all the dancers, the movie dancers that came after that. Fosse, you see early Fosse, and it's just Gene Kelly. It's just him trying to be Gene Kelly in early Fosse faces before he broke every line and got into like
oh yeah,
full Fosse. It was just Gene Kelly. That's what he was drawing from. And so yeah, it's Gene basically brought kind of like helped revive movie musicals, because like after the Fred Astaire era, things started to kind of like fade a little bit, like the 30s and like early 40s, and then Gene comes in kind of mid 40s, 50s is where he got his growth from, and kind of brought life to that. And the musical itself, like, is basically Arthur Freed came in like, hey, I want to put all these songs that I have and make a musical out of it. And again, the plot itself, the movie itself is very simple, but what really brings this movie to life are the dance numbers. It's what you watch it for, and Jean Hagen doing her part.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Can't stand them.
Mm-hmm.
But
I can't stand them.
I did.
But oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I had seen that the songs were prepared before, and the plot was written to include the songs. They were like, we've got these songs, let's write something that will make it all fit. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and the fact that they, because a lot of these songs went back to like the 30s or earlier, is that it really made it all come together when they're like, okay, we're gonna make this 1950s movie take place in the 1920s, and we're going to take this kind of like new golden era of talkies coming in, and we're going to present that. So it had a kind of a different kind of magical approach to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like watching Back to the Future, like you see the 1950s, and there's the kind of that magic to it. It's that kind of little flashback that I think makes it all the more interesting, because you're not in modern times. You've got costumes from back in the day.
For sure. And I feel like that's actually like a really powerful part of the film, is again, it's kind of surreal because obviously we're watching a film. Obviously we're watching a film with the sound, and we're hearing them talk. So it's like we're seeing all this, we're seeing all that feeling, but we actually still get to embrace the shock that they have. And again, one of the things, I mean, Nick, I agree that I did musical theater as well, and that kind of stuff in acting and performing is a very interesting thing to me. And it is a surreal thing when you consider actors at the time when that transition happened. There's a lot of films. I mean, one of the films that won Best Picture, like I think 10 years ago, was The Artist. Similar story and similar thing, but done fully silent. But it's all that idea of like actors that could be from anywhere, could do anything, because they didn't have to talk.
Yeah.
And so long as they kind of could mime it, you'd be fine. But the minute you had to talk, you have I can't stand him. And it's like that now is a problem. And it's such an interesting thing, which, I know we'll probably get into more about her performance later, but there's actually kind of a surreal, ironic thing with that joke in the film that, Nick, I'm sure you know, but I don't know if you know, Naf, the fun fact about that.
I did read some stuff, so I'm sure that it will like come up, but I think particularly, Kay, I want to know your experience with, because there was some standout moments for you too, particularly from the performance side, the choreography side. Like you'd mentioned around like the Broadway melody.
Absolutely. Like Broadway melody, like this is a thing where as a creator, Damien Chazelle said something with La La Land was happening, which was the musicals back in this time period were a very interesting thing because it was the closest art house film had ever come to being like mainstream. It was like musicals like this could do let's be clear, a whole like 10-minute number that isn't actually happening. That is like his pitch to the studio as a number for the movie. And then they all come and be like, and it's that great button to the whole thing of, I think I just have to see it. And then just kind of like,
I can't visualize it, but okay. After we just watched it for 15 minutes.
Exactly. It's like, but as Damien Chazelle said, I feel that the Broadway melody really illustrates to me what is so beautiful about the musical art form and dance, and what dance can evoke in people, and what dance can really is speak volume of. It's the stuff that I joke around when I go see stuff in like a theater. I go see something on you know, on tour, and I'm like, you can never do that in a movie, but you go into a theater and you're like, oh yeah, Greek chorus talking to the audience directly, sure. Like you just buy it. Yeah. And it's beautiful films like this that show, you know, it still works here. Like the whole thing with the girl, one of the most beautiful numbers ever put to screen is just that long silk in the airplane hangar where they're just like dancing with that. And it's like, I think Naf and I off mic says that is the most asexual way to depict sex I've ever seen. And that's like, that is just, it is, but it's beautiful, it's romantic, and it's just, I mean, Nick, I'm curious with you, like obviously with your dance background and everything there, like what does stand out to you with that stuff when you see the history of these movements and how it's portrayed with these big sets and big numbers? And I'm just, I really would love to hear your thoughts on all of this.
Well, the interesting thing about Broadway Melody is that when you watch it, it's as if you are watching a Broadway production. Because like the sets and everything are very much what you would get on a stage. Like you at the very beginning of like when he's like walking through the town and he's on the little like people mover and like walking the opposite direction, but like people keep passing and you see the sets and everything on Broadway Melody. It's like it is a Broadway musical that they're putting on. And then there's like a ballet in the middle of this Broadway musical and telling a story, but you got the different sets and everything. There's some interesting things as far as dance wise with this. Of course, that whole sequence, they use Sid Charisse, who is icon. Like she danced with Fred Astaire. She danced in so many things. And I believe she was actually supposed to be in American in Paris, but she ended up getting pregnant and couldn't do the movie.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
But you know, it's when you have to like, you know, do a movie and dance for like several months.
Not ideal to be incredibly demanding. Like, yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit harder. So of course they brought her in for this, and of course she is taller than Gene Kelly, which, you know, the number where like they're wearing like yellow and green and that little number with the glasses and the kicking everything off. They actually created a dance posture. But if you notice, she's always low and always leaning. And she's always lowered down. And the reason why they're doing that is because she was so much taller, and she was in heels too. So she's even taller than Gene. And so the reation why that pitch and that posture and everything happened was a height thing. Pure and simple. They created an entire kind of iconic look, and I believe that would probably inspired a lot of like Fosse stuff later on as well.
Sure.
But a lot of that was, and then when you see them in the ballet part with the fans and they're oftentimes on different levels.
Yeah.
Or different distances. Yeah.
Oh, where's your microphone gone? Hold on 1 second. Can't hear you, Nick. How am I dropping out?
That testing stuff. I know we're going to be oh, there he is. He's back.
Sorry guys, that's really weird.
Yeah, no, you're here. Let me just see here. Let me get the timestamp real quick, and we'll have you pick up the
Sid Charisse in San Francisco. Yeah,
exactly. We'll have you pick up from there just in a second once I get confirmation on YouTube that we are back.
We're
okay. Yeah, you're back now. Mm-hmm. So 34:23.
I don't understand why it's playing.
Yep, got it today. Yeah, it's just it's hey, beginning of season jitters. It's getting back. It's not used to it. Yeah.
Cool.
But
yeah, go ahead.
So Sid Charisse was a professional ballet dancer, I believe, with the San Francisco Ballet Company before really doing a lot of the film that we see her in. So like she's got the dancing chops for this kind of grand ballet that Debbie Reynolds did not have, so they needed somebody like Sid Charisse who could do all the dancing. And of course, if you ever get a chance to look up anything Sid Charisse is in, like absolute icon with that, like names like Sid Charisse, Eleanor Powell, a lot of these amazing dancers from back then. But yeah, so then they could do a full ballet, and of course, Gene was all about ballet. The more ballet he could get into certain things, he was happy. Like he loved tap dancing, he loved everything else, but he had a real passion for it. In fact, Gene later on ended up choreographing ballets, like for a company later on. Yeah, that's really cool. So like that's something that he had that other dancers didn't have. You see a lot of his lines, a lot of like that presentation that he has. I can't do it in this this box, but like he always has that like that presentation of like that kind of ballet line that he has, and that all that. Yeah, that's all from his ballet background. And of course, he loved using dance to tell a story, as opposed to just music or just script or singing. Like he would try to have these projects that were purely telling a story through dance. He did a lot of like short film stuff, or that's why he added a lot of these things into like American in Paris, Singin in the Rain, On the Town. There's a lot of different musicals where there's like a ballet portion of things where he could tell a story through dance, and that to him was like a beautiful art form.
And it comes
understandably
through, it does come through a lot.
Go ahead, Neff.
That Broadway melody, because I know that was one that stood out to me a lot as well, because there's so much going on there. That's like the biggest piece that we have. And when we look at like that one stood out, and the other one was Make 'Em Laugh. And you guys remember in the fun facts where you have someone who passed out for 3 days after finishing filming, that was Donald O'Connor. So there were things
I believe
it he had done in his prior routines. Like I think that flip off the wall was something that he used to do but hadn't done for a while, and Gene Kelly knew and had asked him, can you like put this in there? But I was reading a lot about how much preparation went in for him beforehand, because he wanted to get it right. And that he would have like his brother come over to his house and they'd practice and practice and practice before he'd go to set, and 19 hours film, and by the end he was so destroyed that like 3 days he needed to kind of fix himself up.
Absolutely. Like it's one of those things where, and when you see that sequence, that was one of my favorites. Again, also just I love whether it's Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins or like things like that. Like I love these expressive comedic styles of dance. I love when you can take the comedy chops, but it's like it's not somebody dancing badly. It's like, no, they are so fucking impressive that they are able to do this.
Yeah.
Go like, everything together. And I love that Make 'Em Laugh sequences has always been one of the things that I'm like, for the last part before COVID fully like hit, I was taking dance lessons every week. And, that was something that I aspired to do at some point, was to have something like and perhaps Nick, I'll come and take some more of you, like, but like because dance and just that expression of movement through your body is just, it's just so much fun. And it's like it's just this elevated sense of storytelling.
Yeah. And
the fact that Donald O'Connor could do it so comedically is insane. It's like, that like, I don't know, Nick, do you have any thoughts on like the comedic dell'arte kind of style of dance, like how like,
well, comedy and dance is very difficult to pull off. Because dancing in and of itself is difficult already of an art form, but to like pull off that kind of comedy, because like Donald O'Connor is essentially using kind of like vaudeville antics in this as well. You got hat tricks, you've got like jumping up and down on pianos, but making it look like completely effortless. But like in order to like create that movement, to just like cross your legs and then just be like, yes, like, and just have those moments. And that's even before like the difficult stuff comes up with like running up the wall or like jumping through things, or like sitting on a couch with just a stuffed like somewhat person and creating a whole comedic routine with all of that.
That was brilliant.
I mean, just the acting chops that it takes for that is extremely difficult. Anytime anybody's going to put a comedy in routine, I'm like, are you sure? You sure you want to put comedy in your routine?
Because it is truly,
it's just so difficult. Like you have to have that in your blood, in your system. So like very few people could have pulled off make them laugh. Like Donald O'Connor is one of those rare beings that could do that.
Absolutely. And you know, and speaking of that, going further with it, you know, Naf, I want to know your thoughts, you know, kind of with this, we're talking about the sets, we're talking about the beauty of this film. And one of the things that you talked to me off mic was, oh my God, this production design and this incredible stuff. And I would love to hear your thoughts on, you know, the scale of this fucking production.
Yeah, well, there was one scene in particular while I was doing my research stood out to me, because I remember going like the Singin In The Rain part. I was going, this is interesting. Like, this wouldn't have been easy to film. There's a lot of water happening here. It looks like it's on the back lot, but also like there's so much going on. And when I was doing research, I saw that they had put up tarps over like 6 blocks of that back lot to keep it dark, and then put sprinklers in to get that level of rain.
Oh, man.
So that they could still film. And again, I'm thinking back then, you know, you don't have equipment that you just go, oh, is this one IP68 rated so it can be underwater for 30 minutes up to 1.5 meters? No, it's not. It's like a mess. So imagining these people with these cameras with bags over the top of them and these huge cranes moving all over the place. And on top of that, yeah, you've got huge tarps blocking everything out so we can actually see it at nighttime. On top of that, water everywhere. Like that one in particular blew my mind. I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, do you guys have other standouts in particular? Like I really like the use of rear projection in this film. You see that a lot.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny because it feels so goofy to look at these days. Like this person in the car that's like, what's going on? Yeah, we're going. Yeah, okay, cool. And there's just like stuff happening in the background. But it always like, though you can tell it's a projector, they always get the performance so good. So it does flow quite nice. When they turn and all of that. So I love that look.
It is insane. Like, and Nick, I'm not sure how your thoughts on this, but like, I know for myself, I agree with you, Neff, that the Singing in the Rain sequence, I mean, there's a reason it's iconic, right? Like, there's a reason that one just stands out. And just seeing Gene Kelly just dance with no care in the world, and we'll get more into that later, but just like the joy that he exudes, and knowing that he got like fucking like pneumonia afterwards, like that he just gave it all.
That was
for
him
that,
with the
and
103-degree fever during the filming of that number. Mental.
Yeah.
I did see as well, like that sort of touching the choreography and the production design together. I know that, I don't know why I'm holding a screwdriver. Hands.
I'm curious.
So I did see that there was one bit in which Debbie Reynolds had to learn an in-depth tap sequence for, I think it was the Good Morning song. And she put so much effort into getting it right. Yeah. And Donald O'Connor used to be the whipping boy for Gene Kelly because he realized that if he yelled at Debbie Reynolds, she would cry and hide under a piano and he wouldn't get a performance out of it for the rest of the day. So he ended up going, I'm going to abuse this guy instead, verbally. And he took
Jesus
it.
Christ.
But I did see one thing that was really interesting, and it was you've got her putting so much effort into getting the performance right. They finally get it, they rap, and in the end, Gene Kelly decided to dub her tap sequence as well, so it wasn't her in the end. Her performance in the end, he had either himself or somebody else come in and record the tap sequence.
That was pretty standard. So usually with those, Gene, like there were certain dancers that he had that helped him with choreography, as well as even some of the Gene Kelly tapping is there were people like his team would also be doing some of that. So there a lot of those in post were done. Like none of the tapping in these films were they making the actual sounds to be recorded. Yeah, they were doing the movements, and then like in post they would be in a sound stage to record the actual tap. So somebody would have to tap the routine to the film
oh my God.
to match up everything after, which is why Gene always had his people, because they knew the choreography. They were with him.
Yeah.
He had like 2 or 3 main people that he had with him through most of his films that helped with that. Their names are escaping me at the moment, but yeah, it's so a lot of those people ended up dubbing the taps for a lot of people. So so it wasn't just Debbie Reynolds that got that dubbed over.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was pretty standard.
Yeah,
for sure.
Just to make sure, just to have that emphasis on the sounds and to give it that crisp, beautiful tap sound that we all love.
If you've ever tried tap dancing, so I've tried a fair amount of tap dancing. I'm not a great tap dancer. I can do some choreography. I could do the movements fairly well, but the actual sounds, when you try to make the sounds the way like the instructor does it, for example, like if you hear it's not quite right. Like you're I'm doing, it's like the sound, there's so much precision that goes into not just the timing of the rhythm, but the sound itself. And I have so insane. Many pro tap dancer friends that like, I'm like, you do that. I'll do this other dancing.
Like same here. It's like, I have a ton of people that just are like, I would try taking those classes and I'm like, oh man, that's just like, again, like kind of like you're saying, like I can get the idea of the movement. I see what you're doing, but mine do not sound like yours, and I have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
And if you're trying to, if you're trying to record for film, for example, you would not get the same performance if somebody was trying to tap dance to like get all the right sounds and everything. You wouldn't be able to get as much of a theatrical experience as you would than if somebody was just straight up tapping.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Across so many aspects of the film, like what sticks out is it almost does have, it's like a storybook or a fantasy in the way that the story kind of comes out. You have all these different kinds of stories and how they tell them. Like I love how you open up with the flashback, and I actually really like that opening of him telling the story of how they came up and what we're actually seeing being very different. And from the start I was like, oh yeah, no, this is I'm gonna love this. I'm gonna love this a lot.
Dignity, always dignity.
Dignity.
Yeah.
it is just that, like, it's so funny, like how cheeky they do it, but how much that conveys in just a short period of time. But it's like, it's so, again, that's why to me this film still remains to be iconic, and the reason that it stays relevant is it's like we still kind of use that technique today. Like that's still a unique technique, like however many years later. Exactly. Gotta love it. But it's just such an interesting thing that they actually like use this kind of unreliable narrator moment at that beginning. And I love and I think as you were saying, Nick, earlier about the everyman, I like that, Gene Kelly easily could have portrayed himself as, oh, I have been, this dancer for my entire life. It's like from the get-go, he's telling you almost his own story of like, nah, man, I grew up over here doing like, bit shows that people could like come to. And that's kind of what gives you this earthy feel to the character, which makes you believe and have sympathy for him going forward.
Yeah. I think that deep cut is so cool. And you get so much depth out of him too. It's exactly what you said. Like, from the start, it sets up that, even following the what's her name, Lena Lamont, and how they get introduced to one another, and her being like, "We're in love," and they're not.
They're very much not.
Yeah, I really liked that aspect, and as you go from like section to section or different like musical number to different musical number, each one feels so very unique, and it's awesome. I love how much they stand out. Like each one stands sort of on its own. But one of the things that I liked the most about the film was that while it does feel that at the surface you've got, okay, Singin' In The Rain, he's just happy because he's singing in the rain. Like all of these songs, all these productions, all these performances, they feel like there's so much more to them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the song itself is Singin' In The Rain, but like what does it mean? Like you got the Broadway melody, and there are so many sections in there that I feel like they're telling me something, and that's where I ended up caught up quite a bit, where I was going, ooh, like let me get into like the metaphor of this, or like how it's satirizing the industry, those kinds of things. But I wonder from you guys, like Nick in particular, like are there any songs or moments in particular that stand out to you as something that has kind of more depth to it than maybe you realized in your first watch?
I don't know about more depth, but it's for me, every number, every song emotes, but also makes you feel a very simple human emotion. Mm-hmm. Like Singin' in the Rain, kind of the main number itself. Like you can feel him being in love. You in experiencing that, you remember that feeling of like when you first felt that thing. Like you feel that it's internal. So it's not just a dance number. You're feeling that emotion as you're going along. Like in a lot of the numbers, You Were Meant for Me. You know, it's that how many like romantic people want to be able to do something like that. You know, want to like express themselves in that kind of way. But not necessarily like it's in like we know it in our heads, but actually being able to do it, out loud in that kind of way. There's some very simple things that we can feel when we're doing this, and you got a number like Good Morning, and like they're kind of celebratory that new hope of like at first like everything felt like it was just falling apart, and now we've got this renewed hope. Even if the number itself, the words didn't give you that, that was what it emoted for you, and you could feel that.
I think it's pretty standard too with like musicals in general. Like when I've talked to people about when I've talked to people about musicals and they go, I don't like them that much, or it's so weird that people just like start singing out of nowhere. It's so like cringe. I'm like, for me, that's what I love about it. And the explanation has always been like the point of the musical, and when the music comes in, it's like these characters can no longer emote in the way that they want to using just words. So they have to dance. There's no other way. It's like when you're so happy, you don't have words, you just cry. That's what's happening on screen. And I love seeing that brought to life through the performances in particular.
I did a Singin' in the Rain recreation that the two of you have seen, and I did it. It was for a Swing Dance event. There were like I don't know, several hundred people there, like 1,000. I don't know how many people were there. But it was a Singin' in the Rain themed night, and I was like, okay, I've been meaning to do this Singin' in the Rain recreation, so let's do it. And I had a full big stage. Had to turn a portable pole dancing pole into a lamppost, because we had to bring it out on the dance floor. And so I could talk about the dancing experience, but as far as singing is concerned, I decided to also sing live. So not only do a full recreation, the tapping was dubbed to the music because I needed to get that movie look. But the singing was live, and I could not get the right tone unless I was extremely relaxed. I had to be in a certain mind frame. I had to have a certain amount of relaxation in order to get the tone that Gene Kelly has in that. Because otherwise it just did not sound right. And so it was very much not just singing, but like I had to like calm myself and be in that like that kind of Gene Kelly, like looking off into that like you see the rain, but it's renewal, it's refreshing, it is life. In if I wasn't there, it just would sound terrible. Like even if I was like technically in key, like it was not the right tone needed. And that's what you get in something like that. It's not just the expression, it's not just the dancing, it's everything all together that makes you feel that.
Absolutely. It's that spirit. It's the spirit of it. And that's like, again, when you talk about musicals, and Neff, you were talking about it earlier, and it's a tough thing. Like, I know a lot of people that will never give a musical a chance, but musicals are so near and dear to my heart. And I get it. Like, I mean, I'm critical of musicals when they come out because I'm like, I love the art form and I love the essence of it. But when I think about musicals, and Singin' in the Rain is just so beautiful with it, where it is just so heartfelt and just so, you can tell the effort that was put in. And it's like, obviously, you hear the horror stories and, it's like, again, kind of the whiplash of it all of like, is it worth putting people through this pain to get film.
Yes.
But you look at this and it's like, hey, listen, this film is still fucking incredible. And you look at it and it's like, you are just sitting there going, how did they do this?
Yeah.
And it will be there forever. And I don't know, like, for me, that's what this musical represents. And also it's this idea of, to me, it's something that, we're kind of experiencing in the industry right now, which is, this was a time period when studios were like, we got this, smoking a big cigar and being like, we got these silent films, but this big, these talky things, it'll never take off. And, sort of a, and then it does. And it's like, well, now we have to change everything. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, we're currently in that period now where studios don't know what the hell is going on. Your average younger audience member would rather watch something on YouTube. Hey, check us out. But then go to the theater. But at the same time, it's like, it's such an interesting thing because where's the innovation going to come from next? And what I love about this film, as opposed to a film I might bring up later, there's a lot of there are so many beautiful the way that this film really portrays this, there's so many negative ways of looking at change is in an industry, especially when you're like Gene Kelly's character, your entire way of acting is fucking gone. It's gone. Like, it's obliterated. It's irrelevant anymore.
Yeah, you have to build everything from the ground up. And that's why it makes so much sense that so many people's what's the word, like their entire careers fell apart because what else are you supposed to do? You have no idea what you're doing with it. But a question that came through from the chat was from Kenny, and he asks us which version is better, black and white or Technicolor. It says Technicolor gives more modern feel to it, just to see how really colorful they went into production. However, black and white makes the movie feel more natural and the feelings hit harder. I didn't know this film came in black and white, so this is news to me. Now I'm gonna have to watch it. But what about you guys? Have you seen black and white version as well?
I have not seen the black and white.
Whoa, we're shams. We're all shams. Can't believe it. Fake fans.
I feel like this. I feel like this movie, color is such a big part of it.
Yeah.
Especially the time period, the sets, the everything. I feel like the colors in and of itself are part of the storytelling in a film like this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if you look
versus
at
like a lot of the Fred Astaire movies that were black and white, that wasn't really so much a thing.
Absolutely. Like if you're on the YouTube streaming, you see like the poster that I have here of Singin In The Rain right there. Like there is so much, from the yellow raincoat to the bright red.
It's the yellow raincoat.
The black hat, the black shoes, and then everything just kind of pops. But I would be interested to check it out in black and white. I might add that to my list and do a rewatch some point soon. I'm intrigued. Kenny says, it's official. I'm old as dirt. Thanks, everybody. Yes, Kenny, you're old as dirt.
Yes, you're the old one here.
Absolutely, you. And but I don't know. I'm always I don't know. I never get the black and white appeal. Like there's some films where it works and it doesn't affect it, but for this, I'm like, it's just such a bright, beautiful film. And I think that part of the joy and the hope of it comes from the beauty of it all. Like I find that to be just absolutely spectacular.
There's literally a whole number based on fashion, like the entire like when they're starting the talkies. And so for me, that should be color. Like they're like that. There's a whole number based on that. So like having that in black and white, I'd be like, what, why?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of the other performances that stood out to me a lot was I really liked. In particular, I think it's during the Broadway Melody where you've got Gene Kelly's going around doing everything. He's trying to get the girl. The girl's consistently being drawn away by the dude flicking the coin.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about like what could this like mean separately from that? And I was thinking, I'm curious on your guys' interpretation of it too, because as it was coming out for me, it was a lot of like, I'm going, if the girl is him trying to like make it, into trying to make like art, for example, or make something that's pure and very much like himself, and that's like kind of his art. And I was looking at it from the guy flicking the coin, being like the studio and the suits, and being like, I'm taking this art away. You're only gonna get it if you do it kind of like my way. And I was looking at particularly a lot of that, I thought that when I was watching the sequence and I was going, this guy here is like the greed of the industry and taking away kind of what he wants. Then I was watching a lot of that sequence, and that kind of kept ringing true for me again and again and again. But I wondered if you guys had any other interpretations of that, or if you think that's stupid.
I do have one. So, if you've ever been in an industry that there's in any sort of artistry in, anybody out there, there's oftentimes when you're trying to make a name or trying to make yourself into something, there's a lot of this pressure to become something else. Become something that you think you're supposed to be in order to become successful. I mean, even if you've, been on TikTok or Instagram or any of the socials and tried to start to kind of build that, there's that pressure there too.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is he gets into this, being this kind of dancer, being this, he's a hoofer and he's doing this thing, and then he gets brought into this world and he thinks he needs to become this, and then there's this thing that he sees that he thinks he wants, but he thinks he needs to become this thing in order to earn that somehow. And by the end of it, even after the ballet is the part of that is kind of the fantasy, what could be, like that he sees that person from across the room, and it brings up these emotions. And at that point, he's become this thing. He became this person that he thought he was supposed to be, but it is still not good enough.
Yep, exactly.
It is not good enough to have this person that he thought that he wanted. And by the end of it, it's that depression of like, who am I? What am I? Yeah, and that's when the gotta dance comes back in. Yes. And that's his renewed, like, this is who I am. Mm-hmm. This is where I come from.
Yeah.
So to me, that is kind of part of the story of that.
Absolutely. And I only second kind of what Nick is saying. Like, the only thing that I think about is I think about, as a writer, when you start off, like, and as you're saying, like Nick, like any creative fields, you start off with a passion, and you start off with a innocence a bit. You start off with a almost like a purity in your ideas. Like, there is a sense of, oh, I don't know, this isn't possible, or I don't know that this can't be done, or this isn't how you're supposed to do it. I don't know that, so I'm going forward. And a lot of that stuff tends to be like, oh, well, that's what people start paying attention to. But then you start learning, and then you start learning all the things that you did do that you're like, oh, I wasn't supposed to do that. Oh, maybe I'll pay attention to this now. And through some of that comes technique, comes this stuff that you learn, and you're like, oh my God, I am improving. Mm-hmm. But a part of you starts to kind of hear the stuff of like, you start to get dragged down a bit. You're like, your heart starts to sink a bit. You're like, you're losing out on this stuff, and you start kind of reaching that like frustration level. And what I think is so
through, right?
Yeah, well, it's like, I feel like you kind of lose that muse. You lose what made anyone pay attention to you in the beginning, which ironically you lost by paying attention to these other people who honestly don't know what they're talking about to a large extent.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then at some point it takes someone showing you that innocence again. And it's almost falling back in love with that, with the knowledge that you know about how to actually do it now. Mm-hmm. And it's like, about how do I almost kind of forget a little bit of the stuff that I know now,
become like,
and bring back some of that. Exactly. Like how do I bring back some of that purity?
Yeah.
And go, I gotta dance. Like, that's it. It's not, I gotta make something, or I gotta make specifically this kind of dance. It's like, no, I gotta dance.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I will do this in whatever way. And that's like, I think that's what that ending is it's bringing back that energy and that life of purity of creation.
And I think that's what Kathy kind of is for him throughout the movie as well. Like, she is this sense of showing him where his kind of internal guiding light is. And it's like, oh, I want to just do this. Like, she does kind of wake him up to the, oh, you've seen one, you've seen them all. And like the way that it hits his ego early on in the film, and like breaks him. And I find that when they get reintroduced a little later that night, and he feels like, I can make fun of her, like she's actually wrong, that last little drive away moment where he's going to chase her and he stops and he just smiles, turns around and walks back in. I was like, I see what's happened here. You've learned something. You've learned something here. And I thought that was awesome.
It gets him to drop that facade that he's kept up around everybody and just be himself.
And I think that when you get back to like the scene where he finally goes and he's able to tell her that essentially he loves her through that, like, you know, I made a skit of it on TikTok of her putting all the pieces together. Like, I can't say it because it is like, it's like my life is a movie. It's always like this, always spectacle. It's almost a fear of having something normal. And I thought that was really powerful because I think that seeing it on screen and how he puts it together, it's beautiful. And at the same time, I thought it's sad because you can only do it there. Like you're not completely connected to yourself yet, that you can just be authentic. You need to have the extra pieces in the background. I think it works in both ways.
Absolutely. Like I could not agree with you more, Neff. And actually, that is something I wanted to ask you, because this being your first time watching it, there is a character that I was very curious about your take on, because I think it's a character. There's a reason that she was nominated for the Oscar. I think that there is a very interesting use of this character in the film, which is Lena Lamont. As an antagonist to the story, and as starting off as kind of this like, oh, you're more of an inconvenience than anything else.
Yep.
You're just kind of hot, but you're funny, you're entertaining, and she's hilarious. But I'm curious with you, how did her story arc affect you? Like, especially that heel drop moment in that like third act when she goes full, oh, bitch, I read the contract.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think I am? Dumb or something?
Dumb or something?
When we got there, what stood out to me the most is I was like, oh God, I thought this was a happy movie. And all of a sudden, I'm recognizing that this is going to be like sad, the ending. This is like, I was like, oh my God, like she's about to be like, they were like, oh, she's just going to do it for one film. It's not that big. And I was like, oh man, she's about to be like swallowed up by the beast. She's going to stay in the belly forever. She's never going to get out. Like in the sense talking about Kathy.
Yeah.
What I did think was really interesting was reading that in the film you've got Kathy dubbing Lena Lamont, but in real life it was Jean Hagen dubbing Debbie Reynolds dubbing Lena Lamont. It was her doing her own voice in the end.
Not the
like
singing was somebody else.
Yeah, no, it was in the
for the audio, the talking part. Yeah.
Oh, that was really funny though. I was like, this is wild. The layers to this that we're working on. This is like galaxy brain thinking. But,
well, this is it's 5D chess.
Yeah.
It's one of those like don't judge a book by its cover, because like you're set up for the entire movie to think she's just dim-witted and like there's no intelligence whatsoever. But in that entire scene in the office where she's like thrown down and she had this whole plan that she did, and every time like she's quoting something or reading something, she never actually reads the thing. It's all in her brain. Yeah. She has it all memorized, every single thing, like from the part of her contract to like she gets out the paper, like, oh, it's what did the paper say? It's right here. She gets out the paper, but is looking off this direction because she has everything memorized. So it's those little moments that you're like, oh, you actually
are a smart cookie, like smart cookie there.
Like as we were getting towards the end of the film, I was like, oh God, this is just not gonna go. And then it does wrap up in the way that it does, and I was like, phew, okay, good, because like I wasn't prepared for that today. I was not ready to experience that.
But it is such a Shakespearean comedic way of it ending though, like with her own demise being orchestrated by her own hubris, being like she had it. She had this in the back. She had their balls in a vice, and it was like there was no way that they were going to be able to like actually get out of this.
Yeah, congratulations.
But
you played yourself.
It was that one of my favorite moments, because I think it was like Cosmo or somebody like that, but it was the moment of like, I'm gonna say something. Like I'm gonna go say something, and then somebody's like, "No, don't do it." And then I think it's like Cosmo or somebody like, "Yeah, go ahead, go say something." Like
the PR guy's trying to stop her.
Yeah,
the PR guy is like, "No." let her go, she's fine. And then just I love that moment where like, and then they're just dancing around the pole, like that little, like the curtain, and it's like the singing in the rain, and just like start lifting up the curtain.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And it's just,
it does actually like, because I know that Cosmo in particular, I was really intrigued by where he ended up, because it was a bit of like I felt that the film was building up for him to be the antagonist or the villain, and then ends up being Lena. Like, I thought that Lena was gonna just be like a cast aside, be angry, blah blah. But there is, from the first shot, you see him like, he's my best friend, we've done everything, and you see him in the back of him, or like he gets out of the car and nobody cares about him, and then Gene Kelly comes on screen, or Don comes on screen, and everyone's cheering, and you can just see him the whole time like, or you know, I'm gonna be out of a job, or this and that. But by the time we get to his arc and the completion of his arc, he's like still an integral part, like, of like the family, you know, where I thought that he was gonna find a way for Don to basically lose his career through the talkies, and he would like jump in as the performer or something. That's kind of where I thought he was gonna go. But what about your take, Kay? I know that you were really taken with Cosmo as a character. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, like I thought the same thing with you. When I watched this the first time, one of the biggest surprises for me was that Cosmo didn't have like an antagonist arc. Because that shot at the beginning, I'm like, if I was doing this, that's exactly what I would do. Is I'm like, oh, that's the setup of like a like disgruntled. He's Fredo in The Godfather. It's like kind of that like vibe of, oh, I'm not him. Not that I couldn't do what he does, I just wasn't the one that was picked up.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you know, but I love the fact that Cosmo will always remain to be what I really resonate with him is he is always the guy, and he is that kind of friend that like tells you how it is. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, like you're Don Lockwood, you're doing the same thing that you've done, but like you're all right, pal. Like, yeah, like you are doing the same thing. Mm. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be a little bit kinder, but I'm not going to like lead you down the wrong path. And I was, and also just obviously make him laugh is a show stopping number that like, I think you can't not look at him, but it's just his physical comedy is just so good, but also his just dry wit is just still funny. Mm-hmm. Like just at like, it's like, cause I mean, you get these old films, and Nick, I don't know how you feel, but it's like, you get these older films, and it's like sometimes the humor is a little bit, I am telling a joke, and it's like, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's funny now, but it's like there are times in this film, like one of my favorites that I was thinking about today, which is him being like, Cosmo, call me a cab. Okay, you're a cab. And then just like going like it's like,
but that the delivery was everything. If the delivery was not on, like, then it'd been like, oh, grown.
Yeah,
it would have been like a dad joke, but it's like in this case, it's like his just straight up like just he's that friend. We've all had that friend. That's like, it's just Nap and I having a conversation in general. It's
What's interesting about Cosmo in this is like in the flashbacks they set up, okay, they both kind of perform, but you also see a lot of a couple moments where Cosmo is just the one at the piano, and then and then you know you've got the one dancing. So they also set up that he's kind of the musician of this group, and so the fact that these two friends are like always going to be together and hook each other up, like they're always they come as a pair. Like you don't get one without the other. Deal. Yeah, and so with all of that, it's nice to see that their camaraderie never falters once, and with one person's success, the other person also gets success within that. And Cosmo is never looking for the spotlight in this movie, which I think is what that key difference of setting up as an antagonist for that is that he's never looking for the spotlight. He wants to, again, you could hear him like, oh, at last I can finally retire and write my symphony, because he's a musician, and so he's kind of an idea person. He's a creative. Like he's kind of that behind the scenes creative with that. And like he gets to do that. He gets to be in this field and do that. So I think that's why his character works and still works in this dynamic. And you're not like, oh, poor Cosmo. Yeah, because otherwise he's just comedic relief. But because they go that direction, I think you're still okay with it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. But
and I think in it.
The scene that you were talking about too, Kay, where he goes, call me a cab, you're a cab. You've also got it was another part that had me setting up for feeling like that was going to go negatively, that relationship, because you've got Don struggling and being swarmed by fans and nobody's going to Cosmo. He's just kind of stepping back, and kind of like leaving him to the wolves. I was like, oh no, this is going to go horribly. And it is still surprising me that in the end, like, he's the catalyst for how they fix this. How, like the Singin In The Rain song that comes directly after the Good Morning song is like, it wouldn't happen without Cosmo's idea. So, like, yeah, like, he's a very, very interesting character. And yeah, definitely like a favorite. I think at the start I was a bit like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this guy. He's giving like, just like Wile E. Coyote kind of. He's gonna be like, oh, I got him, there it is. But no, he's really cool. I love him.
Absolutely. And Nick, obviously, like, with, you know, you were talking a lot about Gene Kelly earlier, and I don't know if there's anything that you want to add. Obviously, we can also talk about Debbie Reynolds, but you know, I want to know if like there were any other particular members of the cast or moments that, like, again, that you found compelling and interesting, that was like that you want to talk about.
Let's see. Besides Gene Kelly,
I mean, even including Gene Kelly, if you would like to talk about more about his like performance specifically.
It's I'm trying to think. Like, I'm such a Gene Kelly fan because so a little bit of backstories. Like with my dancing, I don't do those dances in particular, but it's you know, it's a cousin of what's going on there. And so in my dancing, like I knew who Gene Kelly was early on. I've been dancing for like a little over 26 years. And like, I'm old, so whoever said they're old, like, good luck with that. Is that because I also grew up in sports and athletics before all of that. I had a kind of more of an athletic way of moving in the dance, and I got compared to Gene Kelly as far as just that aspect. And I'm like, okay, at some point I'm like, I should go and look at this and kind of explore this more. And as soon as I did, man, I was hooked, because first of all, like, I related to so much of the movement. Like I could move in that kind of way. Like I'm not thin and scrawny. Like I didn't have like the Fred Astaire kind of aesthetic going on. But Gene Kelly, I really understood, and I really started to adapt a lot of those movements. Some of the movements that I had already come up with it for my own dancing, I watched Gene Kelly and I'm like, oh, he's already doing that. Yeah. Like, well, at least I'm on the right track. His entire wardrobe, I already had in my closet because of swing dance and stuff. Like sweater vest, like white socks, loafers. That's my whole outfit.
Like, I
wear pants too.
Stuff.
Don't worry.
I just had this.
And so like diving into his movement, like I there's so many different routines, not just the Singin In The Rain, but I used taking a lot of his movements and creating a lot of different routines, kind of picking apart some of my favorite moments from that. And so like going into like Singin In The Rain, there's just so many iconic things, and you end up seeing a lot of the same movements in his choreography throughout everything. You see all of that, but the way in which he uses the people he dances with or how he emotes, there's just something kind of electric with how he performs the song and dance, the expression, how he gets low but still seems like ginormous, like on camera. With a lot of that, just the amount of talent it takes to do a number like Singin In The Rain. Like for example, like just with the umbrella, like in my performance, I dropped the umbrella once, and that's today. Like, and I was doing the whole thing live, so I didn't have like multiple takes. But just the sheer talent of how easy he made everything look. And that's part of the charm of Gene Kelly. Like, he's doing so many complex things, but he just makes everything look so easy and nonchalant. And like all the big movements, when you try to do the arm stuff in your brain, you're kind of like, that is huge. And then you watch it, you're like, I'm still not even close to Gene Kelly. It's just, there's something just infectious of how he dances and how he moves. But yeah, just his like theatrical performances, his expressions, how he takes something you would see on stage with theater and bring it to film. Is not an easy thing to do, because like usually you're either a film person or you're a Broadway person.
Oh yeah, that's the tale as old as time.
Yeah.
Like sort of like style of acting. You're playing for back of house, or you're playing for like right here. And
but on film, he still does that kind of back of house thing, but like it comes across
works.
on film. Yeah.
How? I don't know how he does it. Like, I don't know how you can do it. Like, the only, like, one of the few performers that, like, I've seen in, like, a modern context that I feel does something similar is Ryan Gosling. Is the only other person I can see as kind of like can play that intimate, like, intense, but also be that sort of, like, you feel like you're watching, like, a stage play at times, and it's like in the best ways.
He is just Ken.
He is just, God damn it. Well done. He is I got nothing. I got nothing. Like game respect. But like, yeah, like as you're saying, it's just Gene Kelly. Just he is him. Like, you know, it is that sort of. There is a reason that he has endured as a performer and as a style in general, and just, you know, it's like what else can you say? What else can you say about the man?
There's something about that era. Not so you get it through Fred's era, which Fred comes from a little bit earlier generation. Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, that era of dancers, more the black and white films. And something that Fred did, and Gene kind of took on that same kind of mantle. And they were friends, by the way. I know sometimes there's rumors that they weren't, but they were friends. Is that Fred was always trying to innovate in dance, whether it be what the dance number is, what the movie is, or like, hey, I'm going to take this like hat rack and make a number out of it. Like, I'm going to do this whole thing with this. And Gene Kelly does that same thing. Gene Kelly's always trying to innovate. There's one movie where he dances with a mirror image of himself.
Really?
Like, he has to dance twice. I'll think of the movie when I'm not trying to think of it. Basically they filmed the scene because he had to choreograph two of himself. Yeah. And because he had, like, there's a whole scene where he's chasing himself too. And they had to film one scene with just him with the set. Then they had to put over the entire set with like black felt. So the entire set had black felt put over it. And then he had to dance the other part of himself. Yeah. And you can look it up. It's like mirror. If you look up like mirror image, Gene Kelly. It's a little bit earlier movie. I know it well, but I'll think of it in a moment.
I'm pulling it up now. It's Always Fair Weather.
No, that's not the one.
That's not it.
With,
that's not it.
No, it's with Rita Hayworth.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Yeah,
but like keep going. Cover Girl.
Cover Girl. Thank you. Yes, Cover Girl with the mirror image. And like those kind of innovations, and like you see him innovate and always trying to do something. There's one number with Summer Stock, where it's they had a couple days where let's just say the actress was having problems and could not come to set, so he created this entire number with this newspaper. And how he dances with the newspaper, and like he's dancing and like pulling sections apart, and like there's a squeak on the floor. So like with the squeak on the floor, it starts with a squeak on the floor, and then there's a newspaper involved, and creates this like amazing number.
Oh yeah,
just with these two little things, like just that innovation that he brings to the table. And I think that's where something we don't have in the industry right now is innovation. Like right now, it's all based on the bottom dollar. It's all based on what a sequel or franchise we can expand upon. But innovation is what we're missing at the moment. That's what the industry is currently, having a hard time with. Is they're wondering what's going on, but they're just trying to make a buck and not relying on creatives to come up with the new concepts.
Which is why creatives are taking to their own means. Yeah. And that's where the beautiful stuff is coming. But Nav, tell me your thoughts on all of that.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that's where your A24 comes in and undercuts, because it's like the conversation that we have constantly. People being like, they don't make films like this anymore, or like, they what's the word? Like everything's the same. It's the same 5 films coming out each year. It's all just remakes and this. And then you get to like that, and you see like the complex horror films that are happening, all of the indie stuff, like the way that rom-coms aren't all of that. What's the word? Like not every rom-com is that kind of hallmark formula. You've got a lot of interesting, like I guess diversity in the creativity there. Like there's so many different voices, and that a studio can come like A24 in particular and go, all right, here's an indie film that I picked up at a film festival, and I'm just gonna distribute that out. That gets those films to the forefront, and we're seeing a lot more creativity from those smaller films. And it's like we spoke about it last year, because we always, when we talk about film budgets, we always compare them to Hell or High Water.
Hell or High Water.
The film that we did, it was $12 million that film cost. And it looks so expensive and so clean. And then you compare it to $250 million for this film or that film, and it's like, at the Oscars this year, the writer-director of American Fiction said that studios are so quick to put down $200 million on one film, but they won't make $20 million films, or $10 million films. And it's like, it goes to show that if all films had the level of like quality that something like Hell or High Water had for that small amount, we would see a lot more of this. Those creative voices that you're talking about, Nick, would be put at the forefront, and they'd be able to make stuff like this happen. And I mean, you've got like, as you were saying before, Kate, like Damien Chazelle, very inspired by this era of storytelling, as you can see in his films now. And coming in through Whiplash and that, like, he wasn't a big director. He's a small dude.
He was a small guy.
And he's only just had his one like kind of big movie now. Now they reckon he's in director's jail, but I mean, that's a conversation for another, for another time. But you do see the inspiration for this. And I think that it can be repaired, that kind of where we're at mentally, or where the studios are kind of at mentally and trying to figure that out. But it does take a bit of a leap of faith. It's like, if you are making $10 million movies, half of them are going to flop. Like, you got to be prepared for that. But the idea of, we so desperately need to make a buck that we're going to make this movie, and we're going to make it generic, and we're going to make it appeal to everyone so everyone goes and watches it. But then you don't feel that attachment to it. It's like, it is, in some instances, feels better to have something that is middle of the road. Half people love it, half people hate it, because people who love it will like love it. Rather than, I go and watch an MCU film these days and I leave and I'm like, okay, that's 2 hours.
We're kind of hitting, if we're talking about modern movies, because I'm a big film person too. So we're starting to hit an age of that perfect storm coming together. Like, there's certain moments in history with artistry, just in general, or kind of the outlier groups. If you've ever read Outliers type of thing, like you got the Lucas Spielberg, that generation of filmmakers that came in, like they just love to do the thing, and they innovated. But you've got the studios right now that really just are trying to make a buck. They're trying to push AI. They're getting as far away from the actual creatives right now as they can, and that's why you get a lot of movies that you just kind of go like, okay, that's fine. And so with all of that, and with the kind of the disillusionment of the artists right now, and them having to just trying to figure their own thing out, like you've got all these creatives kind of getting pushed to the side. But this separation is going to create a bigger divide, and then this group of creatives, something's going to come out of that, because they're being beat down. They're just trying to fight for a living, like a living wage, which they're not getting. And then you've got these studios over here that are just trying to, and so that divide is going further, and with that is going to come a new age of something.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we're set up for.
We are kind of on the cusp of it, aren't we? Like, something is going to happen. Something has to give.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. And if I may jump in on that, like, that's what I think is so beautiful. And I think this film, like, it's tragic that it has to come out this way, but every time it's these things I'll hear constantly, people saying film is dying or film is that, like, it's always and I'm like, listen, it's, you look at the state of it. It's easy to see that is kind of true, but I'm like, but I think that's always a defeatist mentality, because if you look at every point in film history, when we've gotten to this point, you brought up Spielberg, Lucas, and that group. What preceded them was ad companies taking over the studios. And it was these people that moved in that had no idea how to make a film. So they were like, okay, well, we got to go with something. And everything was dying. Everything that they were doing wasn't working. Studios were being sold left and right, going bankruptcy, that they were like, shit, we got to go to, let's go to film schools. And they started giving these directors a chance. Now, if you're thinking about it, obviously for us, we're like, oh, Scorsese, Spielberg, Lucas, all these people. It's like, duh, of course you would give these people a chance. But at the time, it's like, these people were like nobodies that were in a bar. Like, they had nothing. Yeah. And it's like, they were just kids. And they just said, fuck it, we got nothing to lose. Let's give it to these people. But the thing to me is, Nick, you hit the nail on the head. I think that it's why I don't believe giving every film a huge budget, because scarcity is the mother of invention. It's the mother of innovation. It's this idea of, well, you have, as you said, the studios with all the money over here, but they won't give it to anybody. But then you have a bunch of creatives over here who still want to do the thing, but want to say, kind of, screw the studios. Let's go over here. And I think that you're right, that I think these creatives are going to realize we never really needed these people in the first place. It's just this illusion that they have created that they are necessary. And we're just going to create studios ourselves and run it how it should be run.
Yeah.
And then these people are going to be irrelevant in 10 years.
I mean, Lucas did that. Lucas was like, you know what? Screw this system. I'm going to create my own system.
With Blackjack,
I'm going to make my own studio. Like, exactly.
And then, you know, like, you follow things like Disney, for example, and like you see their golden era, and it's basically somebody coming in and be like, maybe we should trust creatives. that's all the era was.
That's all like, those eras. It's going, what if you actually let them do? My favorite story is even in DreamWorks, where the creators of Shrek was everybody who was kicked off of other projects for being too, like, kind of like create, like, basically like the problem childs of every other project were put onto Shrek as like punishment, and then Shrek ended up grossing this huge like thing. And it's like, it's, to me, it's this stuff of, but like, you go to film and this film shows you, it's like they had this dueling cavalier fucking travesty of a film, but they're like, but what if we tried something? What if we tried to do something with it? And it's like, they are like, what if we make it a singing and dancing? Do something that, well, we have this piece and we have this piece. Why don't we make it together? And it's like, that is what we do. That's
innovation
why art
takes risk.
Art will always exist, because artists don't do it for the money. It would be nice. And it's like, I don't like the starving artist, you know, the glorifying of the starving artist, because it's just bullshit.
Yeah.
Pay people what they're worth. And but at the same time, people want to tell these stories. People want to create. And if they're going to do it in their bedroom with a lamp and like shadow puppets, or they can do it on a giant like screen, it's people will create. That is what we do. And I think that that's what this film inspires me, is especially in a situation where we're running up against strike after strike with studios that don't know what the hell they're doing, and like kind of tarnishing the legacy of films as we know them. But what I love about this film is it reminds me to Sing in the Rain, to be able to go, hey, yeah, parts of this suck, but you can't change the fact that it's raining. Mm-hmm. How are you going to learn how to enjoy it? How are you going to learn to make this special for you? And I think that that's what, like when Nafi was saying, like, why does this film stick with me? It's that.
Yeah.
It's that image of, I'm going to take the thing that you said should bring me down and use it to drive me. And that's like, that's why this film will always live in my heart.
I think that's why it's so iconic, is that you walk away with it just feeling joy, feeling happy about life, feeling inspired, feeling hope. You get your earworms of the songs that you love from it. But even if you just dive into one of the dance numbers, you go on YouTube and look at one of the dance numbers, that will replenish you every single time.
Truly.
Yeah, I think that it is
truly
that, and I think that's why it does kind of stand the test of time, because you can go back and watch it, and it's always going to make you feel the way it made you feel, you know. And I think that that's something that it's missed from those big studio films that kind of happen with the big IP stuff. Like, I feel like it's desperately trying to reclaim the feeling or recapture the feeling, but it can only do it so much. You get it through the member berries, you know, rather than the I really connected to this. You guys know the member berries meme, right?
Yeah.
It's from South Park. They get J.J. Abrams to redo the American anthem, and they're the member berries, and he gives people member berries. And it's like, member, it used to be so good, member. So yeah, it's the glup shitter of it all, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but like as we look to kind of wrap up a little bit, just in terms of the films, the film itself in general. Like, I know that you'd also wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the legacy of Gene Kelly. Nick, I wondered if maybe you want to touch on that for us a little bit before we kind of do our socials and our cinema a la carte and wrap up.
One of the things I think Gene Kelly really gave us is that relatability to dance, because a lot of times, but before that, you had like you see it in the film itself, like the Ziegfeld Follies. Dance just seemed like something else, but Gene Kelly gave us that, like, everybody can dance and anybody can be a dancer, and I think that's one of the big legacies that they're still trying to carry on today with like his widow and other people that are trying to maintain that. But he presented dance in a different light that really just kind of changed the history of dance and combined the different art forms to create his own image and that innovation and that unique quality. And I think that, again, like someone like me, you know, like I came in like, oh yes, I grew up with musical theater and everything else. Never thought I could be a dancer, you know. It never occurred to me, because like growing up in a small town, it was kind of like it was tights and tutus, and you know that's what I saw of dance. Yeah. I saw the cheesy kind of like little jazz, and I never thought it could be that. But then because of a dancer like Gene Kelly, there's that realization of like, oh yeah, I can do this, you know. And then that's been my entire adult life. That's been my career is dancing, because of people like that.
Yeah.
That to me is a big legacy.
It can inspire you, like your career. It's immense. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I have a bigger video that I want to do about this, but I always believe that art is a tapestry. And that art begets. Oh no, my camera disappeared.
It got too hot again.
Like, hold on. You can still hear me, but continue. Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can find a different battery.
Continue.
Hold on.
Well, like I was saying, I wanted to create a video about art being like tapestry, and this is my own idea. I came up with this whole idea myself.
When I go back and edit this later, I'm gonna remove.
Yeah, that art is a tapestry.
Wait, hold on.
And on that tapestry, again, this is my own idea. Anybody who steals it, I've now claimed the rights to this.
Wait, no. That was.
Hold on. I don't know what's going on here. Let me mute this person that's just jumped in randomly.
Hey, no. That's not.
I'm also, like you know me. I'm a movie man, and so I've got opinions.
Yeah.
And I mean, like this tapestry, and on this tapestry,
So tapestries, damn it, Nick got to it. But
claimed.
But art begets art is what I was going to say.
Beautiful. Very well put.
Language.
Anyway, on to the next point.
Art
should not be getting art. This is.
Hey, listen, I'll beget your art anytime. But that's like I guess the only, it feels silly coming back, but nonetheless, like the feeling that I have is that art inspires other artists, whether it's a song that inspires a film, a painting that inspires a dance, a piece of music that inspires, a symphony. It's like so much of what we do as artists is inspired by, oh, well, I don't know if I can do that, but I can do this. And it's like, it's so beautiful where you see someone whose art inspires you to take something off. And that's beautiful that Gene Kelly kind of has given you that in your life, to be able to express yourself and to be able to express and help others express themselves and to be able to learn all that. It's fantastic, man. Like, it's incredible and beautiful to see your journey there is just so, it's inspiring. It's very inspiring.
It's really cool. And you're absolutely like a fantastic performance. I got to see the video of you doing what you were talking about. The like, you'd send it to me, and like I said, we used it in one of our clips. You guys can check it out on like the TikTok and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I'm sure they can find you through all of your spaces too, and check out that stuff directly in like its full length, because it's really cool. You have like a whole documentary from what I could see of you like becoming Gene Kelly. Like,
I did a three-part video of becoming Gene Kelly of like being able to like the singing, the dancing, like taking on all these different aspects in order to create this routine. So it was a whole behind the scenes, like this is what it took. So it's like a three-part video of becoming Gene Kelly. So I figured, like, if I'm going to take this on, I can at least document it and create it. So part 3 is the actual performance, but and then I also kind of talked like the aftermath of like having done it, and like, oh my god, it took so much work. Holy crap!
Did you collapse in a bed for 3 days and get pneumonia afterwards? Because like, if not,
I took out the rain because I was, I didn't want to die.
Yeah,
fair.
I don't think creating a sprinkler system.
Leave the desire to die to Naf and I, and that's like, wow, that got dark. Anyway, segues are cool. So the help me, but basically, no, but Nick, it's very cool to see, just all of that and seeing that documentary. And then also another plug of yours is something that we got to see in person, which was the Singing in the Satine. And so seeing that whole wonderful dance you did at Celebration in London. If y'all haven't seen it, definitely check it out on Nick's channel. It was a spectacular sight to see.
I have a plan to actually like film it properly because when we were doing that in London, like there was so much wind, and trying to do an umbrella routine.
Oh, totally ridiculous.
Sarah, who's just over there crafting, made our costumes, and yeah, it was so fun to combine two things that I love, like Star Wars and Singin' in the Rain, to do Singin' in the Rain. But we will do a proper video.
And if hey, listen, if you need help with that, especially if you need like photos or things of that taken, please hit us up. We would love to help you out with that.
Help me. You're my help.
We will be. Like we'll do a collab with it. But yes, shall we start wrapping up?
Yeah, I was gonna say, as we look to wrap up, do you guys have any other final thoughts on the movie that we want to get across before we do some wrap ups? For me, I loved it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I'm in love with this movie. It made me feel loved as well, if that makes sense. Like, I was watching it and I was like, oh, you love me. Like, you made this for me to feel happy. It's like when like someone has made something for you specifically because they know you so well. It's like they took, what are the things that Naf would really love? Let's put it in a movie and let's give it to him. This is like the most wonderful, second best birthday present I've ever gotten. Did you think you were number 1? Sorry, you're like number 7.
Yeah.
No, but
for me going into this movie, I would say, if you haven't seen it going into it, go into it just wanting to have a good time. Like, if you go into it trying to overanalyze anything when it comes to musical like this, like you go into it wanting to have a good experience. Like, that's what you go into the theater for. You go to see a musical to like feel those emotions and have a good time. If you go in with that mentality, I think you'll love it.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Kay? Any final thoughts?
Absolutely. I second that. This is a feel-good movie. This is a beautiful movie. It stands the test of time. I think it's timeless. And I think that it has so much beauty and so much heart and so much love to give. And it just, as you guys said, it just makes you feel good. And just, again, I love what you said, Neff, of this is just a gift. This is just a gift of a film that you're like, you watch it and you're like, thank you for wanting to give me an experience.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's beautiful. And if you want to see where a lot of innovation in filmmaking, in techniques, in stuff that you see from everything from modern musicals to horror movies, it's like a lot of that shit started in stuff like Singing in the Rain. So please give it a watch if you haven't. It's a really beautiful thing.
Another thought on that too is like, I think that specifically what makes the film feel so like special is to Nick's point earlier, we kind of like tie it all in there. It's like, it doesn't feel like it wants my money, you know? It's like,
yeah,
it's creatively led for you to have a good time, for you to feel something. And I think that that's the difference between the sort of more modern films, particularly the ones that you don't feel as much, are the ones that you leave and you go, why? Like, what was the reason? And not that it has to have some kind of, you know, breakthrough mental understanding. It's like, that felt like you wanted my money, and that's the reason that it exists. This feels like you wanted me to have a great time, and that's why it exists. I think that's why it stands the test of time, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I second that.
Cool. Well, before we head over to our lovely, fantastic game, Cinema a la carte, one, Nick, congratulations, because as far as season 3 goes, you currently have our best film. So great work.
Yeah. So great start.
Like, when you go first, you're automatically winning.
You're already there.
Tell that to my ex-wife.
Like, you're just
yeah. And this was also the season finale. So
yes, we're done.
Exactly.
Now I won it. No.
Yeah, we wanted to just say that, guys, we're stopping one with the films after this.
Yeah,
like, it's just
sorry.
it's done.
Yeah.
We wanted to tell you here first.
Yeah.
Can't stop, won't stop.
In your space, Nick, what have you got going on at the moment, and where can people find you?
So, you know, I've got like you see the 2 names on here, but I've got the 2 different lives. I've got my dance stuff, which if you just look up Nick Williams Dance on website, on Instagram, on YouTube, you'll see all the videos of me with all of that. But also I've got all my Star Wars Codename Fulcrum there. But if you add just before that, if you add Nick _Codename _Fulcrum, you'll get the Instagram version of that. So I've got my 2 lives. And like, yeah, the Star Wars people don't know I do the dancing thing so much. And then everybody in dancing knows I'm a big Star Wars nerd because I'm always in Star Wars apparel. Yeah. So yeah.
And you guys, if you're following on YouTube as well, you can find Nick's like link tree with all of his links available in the description too. So yeah, definitely head over, give Nick a follow. I mean, I don't know why we're throwing people to you. You're like, where are we? We got 70 followers on TikTok right now. You're sitting at like 80,000. So
hell yeah.
But hey, look, we'll do this favor. Our 70 people, go over and follow Nick. You're going to be very happy with what you find. And yeah, heaps of really great, especially right now post Acolyte. You've got some really great videos, really insightful videos around the series that are fantastic. So yeah, go check it out.
And anybody who's watching this that's following me is go follow both One with the Films, but also both their channels as well.
Yes,
so like you've got a few things to follow.
Yeah,
all in the description. Yes. Yeah. So
and for
wherever they're facing on this, I don't know where they are.
Exactly. Well, we're all over. Yes. If you point enough in either direction, you can kind of get a vibe for it.
Yeah. But yeah, like we said, like you can obviously find One with the Films anywhere you get your podcasts as well. So we're available here on YouTube for you to come and check out after, but we're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all your other places. And Instagram's a really great place to be when you're trying to get into episodes that are upcoming. We do some like kind of teasers for what's coming next. And yeah, they're heaps of fun. So you can follow us on TikTok as well if you want to stay up to date with like our goofy little skits and promos and stuff we do for these, which are heaps of fun. You can actually check out the ones we did for this episode on TikTok now.
Which we had a lot of fun doing, and we're excited for a lot of the ideas that we have for the rest of the season. And also you can stay up to date on all of the various other stuff we got coming down the line, which we'll be vague with, but this is an ambitious season that we're trying to pull off, and but we all do it again. We believe in, as Naf said, the idea of we want to do this to entertain. We just enjoy it. So whatever you guys want to do, it's a fun time.
As well, guys, remember that we do this to share films with one another, and like to share films with you, have films shared with us, all of that. And in the description as well, there's also a link for if there's a particular creator that you love and that you'd love to see on the podcast. Let us know. And if there's a particular film that you'd love to see on the podcast, let us know as well, because we'd love to make the kind of stuff you guys want to watch too. So yeah, that being said,
absolutely. Or just obsessively tag them in every post we have.
You should go on What with the Films. That being said, why don't we play a bit of cinema a la carte? What do you reckon, Kay?
Absolutely. Well, Cinema a la carte is our wonderful little time where we take you to the restaurant of cinema, the restaurant of this wonderful history of film that we have. Exactly. You got to take off the hat. Make sure, you know, this is a classy joint. Now, we want to make sure that we understand.
Can't stand them.
You can't stand them. But like the thing about Cinema a la carte is where we try to cherish in the flavors of film and the wonderful aromas therein. And we treat the film that we have brought as the main dish. And each one of us has prepared an appetizer, something to whet your palate, and to get you interested in the main dish, a dessert, something to follow up the main dish. Maybe it's a different style. Maybe it's something to contrast the flavor. If you went with something savory and then you go with something sweet, something along those lines, just something that complements and leaves you with like a love and desire. And then we have a wine, something that's a little adjacent to this, but you might kind of see similarities and it might just pair really well, even if it might be out of the box. So as just to give an example, I will do mine first to just get on into it. So, with mine, I wanted to do with the appetizer being for those who are less inclined towards musicals, and for those who are a little bit looking for an entry-level musical, like something to kind of give them a reason to actually be interested in musicals, is a film that came out in 2021. It's a wonderful film known as Tick, Tick, Boom.
Wonderful.
One of my favorite modern movie musicals. I think it's incredible. Andrew Garfield, Lin-Manuel Miranda directed it. It is about Jonathan Larson, the life of the writer of Rent before he ever made Rent, and about his producing of this play that he was trying to get up in there. Beautiful film, really moves me and continues to move me to this day. Followed up by a dessert, which I think, well, I guess the main dish is Singing in the Rain.
Mm-hmm. So your entree is
my entree is Singing in the Rain, obviously. And so we have my appetizer being Tick, Tick, Boom, followed up by Singing in the Rain, and then something to kind of complement that afterwards, something to kind of like really let that sink in and savor it in, is a classic musical with a redone flair. You got to go with West Side Story, the 2021 version. If you want to see the master of cinema, Steven Spielberg, you want to see him take on this wonderful world and see something where you were talking about something that was not made to just make a quick buck, something that was a passion project for Spielberg and the creative team, something that really just uses, as we talked about, doesn't shy away from hiring actual Broadway dancers to do your whole musicals, to do all of the numbers, to be able to do all this stuff. It's a powerful film, and it really just, especially if you are a lover of musicals, this adaptation I think is the best version of West Side Story.
I have 4 words to say to that. Brother, shit. I'm kidding. I really want to rewatch.
You're incorrect. You're incorrect, and that's fine.
I'm getting ready to rewatch it. I'm building up my spirit to get there again. For context, if you guys haven't listened, Kay thought I would love the movie. I watched it. I unfortunately didn't love it that much, but being the open-minded individual that I am, I'm gonna go back to it. I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna try it with a bit of K audio.
He's been lying to you this entire time. He doesn't like musicals. He just doesn't understand the art form. So
Classic.
Nick and I appreciate art. But but my wine is a film that I fell in love with. We talked a lot about Fosse earlier, but I think this is Fosse's magnum opus, which is All That Jazz. I think that if you're looking for something that takes a little bit of a darker tone on a similar story to Singing in the Rain, I think All That Jazz is an incredible film. Roy Scheider, it's about, a guy in the twilight of his career trying to deal with the inevitability of being irrelevant. And it's an incredible film. So definitely check that out. But Nick, I'm going to toss it over to you. What you got?
I'm going to go with I'm going to stick with Gene Kelly movies, just for people who are wanting to kind of
absolutely.
Of course, of course, I would say appetizer being On the Town, because you've got Gene Kelly, you got Frank Sinatra, you got an entire like cast. It's fun, it's goofy. It's sailors on the town, and they have an experience, and like you've got a cast of like 3 male leads, 3 female leads, and there's it's just a fun little romp. It kind of warms you up for Singin' in the Rain with that. So of course, then you got Singin' in the Rain. And I would say dessert being the dessert, not the wine. The dessert would be American in Paris. Because it's just beautiful, and like it's one of those movies you just have to savor, you know. And of course, I would say for wine, I would have to go Summer Stock, because Gene Kelly and Judy Garland. Judy Garland basically helped Gene Kelly get his start, like in his first like big movie with her, like early on. It was a different movie. I recreated their like part of their number of like Ball and the Jack and that, but she was so good to him, and like he just had such love for her that when Summer Stock was being made, is that Judy Garland was having a lot of problems at the time. And, like Gene was like adamant on making this movie, and thus like that number that I talked about earlier about him creating that when Judy was having a rough time. But just the love that went into that because of, their love and affection for each other is beautiful, and some great, wonderful dance numbers as well.
Beautiful. That's 3 to add to my list, because I've not seen any of them. Like, I think this is my only Gene Kelly flick. So great choices, Nick. Good work.
Oh, yeah.
For me, with being like not as well versed in like older films, and particularly like films like this, it's like I love them when I see them, but I haven't seen enough. So I'm currently kind of
older. It's only like 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, come on, man.
Maybe?
Yeah.
No, but
I remember back in my day.
Well, one of the things I want to call out as well is Lothal Youngling in chat said that Mamma Mia and Tick Tick Boom would be their picks. So like Mamma Mia is a great one.
Mamma Mia would be a great dessert. Yeah, absolutely.
My initial cinema a la carte for this was like it didn't have as much kind of deep cuts as I would have liked. It was originally gonna be like I watched this and I thought of Babylon straight away, and I thought that like Babylon is like the antithesis to this film. Like it's like the same thing, but the bad guy ending. It's like you're playing Knights of the Old Republic and you did too many. You killed a couple of people along the way, and you've ended up with the down end. But what I'll do is for an entree, I've picked a film from a couple of years ago that came out. It's called Rye Lane. I think in terms of just the color and that kind of precious feeling that the film has, it's like it's the start of a relationship, it's like friendship.
Yeah, you're taking the romance friendship angle.
Yeah, 2 people in one place at one time, and how do they kind of affect each other's lives? I think it's a really great film. It's a really easy, breezy watch. I guarantee that's a film that I can recommend to anyone, and you'll love it. So I think it's a really nice kind of starter in here. Then we get to our main, which is Singin' in the Rain, and I want to pair that with a wine, and the wine is La La Land. I think that it is like the modern recreation of
that. Is a good one.
They pair together really, really well. For dessert, this is the best one. You've had your wonderful kind of setup. You've had your wine. You've had your main. You're feeling good. You're feeling buzzed a little bit. You've had maybe 2, maybe 3 glasses of wine, because La La Land can use many, many watches, right?
You need a lot of wine after that, yeah.
For dessert, we're gonna watch Hundreds of Beavers. This film is a modern film that's come out this year, but it uses a lot of the techniques that this film uses. It's in black and white. It has no dialogue. It's all like slapstick in camera, like prosthetics, and it's insane. You'll watch it and you'll go, this film is from like the 50s, and it came out this year. It's sensational, and I think it's a really good way to close out your meal, if you will. It's beautiful.
Fucking love it.
Yeah.
Well done. Well, and that concludes our cinema a la carte experience.
Wonderful. So there you go, guys. You've got a few different ways that you can go, a few different menus you can choose from. But with that in mind, like, as we said at the start of the episode, we reveal our next episode now. And we're
Absolutely.
What I'm really excited about is I was finally able to book this guest for next week. It took a long time, but it's someone that I've been wanting to work with for a long time. I'm like obsessed with them. I love their content. Every time I get to talk with them, it's great. We've known
famously hard to reach.
Yeah. Like you text them and like they don't really text back. It's a whole thing. But in
one word answers.
Got them booked in. And Kay, like, do you want to do the reveal for next week's guest and our movie?
Well, absolutely. Well, you know, we have the illustrious Movie Man Opinions bringing Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, to One with the Films. We are here to talk about the wonderful, terrifying, genre-defying creation that was Psycho. So excited to finally show Naf this movie. Yeah. One of my absolute favorites of all time.
A great film for you to bring as well, because as the song goes, oh, you're sweet, but you're psycho. So,
hey, listen, you got to know your brand. And so, as with that, we know our brand. We've overstayed our welcome. Thank you all for coming. We love you all so much. And Nick, obviously, thank you so much for coming and being on our premiere episode of season 3. Absolutely, and we hope to have you back again soon.
Yeah, and so we'll see you at the one with the filmies for season 3.
Absolutely.
See if we get an award, huh? Man.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you so much. Yeah, we hope to have you back really soon.
Best hat tricks.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
See you guys.
Absolutely. See you there.